Hi, my friends. Tonight we'll wander back to medieval times, a world both strange and familiar, where humble farmers tilled the soil and noble feasts celebrated the bounty of the land. Tonight's focus: fruits you've likely never heard of or at least forgotten, that were essential to medieval life. Imagine a time when each orchard was a treasure trove of strange and wonderful flavors, long before supermarkets and refrigeration changed everything. You awake under a thatched roof, the sun rising to filter through oiled parchment windows. Outside your village hums to life, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. A rooster crows, your stomach growls. But instead of the bananas or oranges we might reach for today, your breakfast might feature a tangy quince or a handful of wild service berries. These fruits weren't just snacks. They were survival tools, medicines, and sometimes even symbols of wealth and status. Let's set the stage in the Middle Ages. Fruit wasn't just plucked and eaten raw like today. It was baked, stewed, fermented, or preserved, transforming into treats or remedies that could last through harsh winters. People believed fruits had humoral properties. Yes, that's medieval speak for balancing your bodies. Hot, that's cold, yes, wet, and dry qualities. Too much of one thing, a tart sloe berry might fix it. Feeling sluggish, a sweet medlar might perk you up. It wasn't all practicality, though. Fruit brought joy, inspiration, and even a touch of humor. Medieval banquets featured towering displays of sugared pears and candied quinces. Poets waxed lyrical about mulberries and figs. Even the humble crabapple made its way into myths and legends. And then there were the farmers, the unsung heroes of our story. Imagine them trudging through dew-laden fields, tending orchards with care. Their work a delicate dance between nature's bounty and its caprice. Harvest could be generous, but a late frost or a pest infestation could ruin everything. Historians still argue whether medieval resilience came more from luck or sheer determination. But one thing is clear: fruits played an essential role in their survival and culture. So as you settle into the rhythm of this story, picture the vibrant colors of an orchard in full bloom, the golden glow of quinces, the crimson shine of cornelian cherries, the deep purple hues of blackberries. Each one has a story, a purpose, and a connection to the people who cherish them. And here's a thought to savor before we dive deeper. Some of these fruits still exist today, hiding in plain sight, waiting for rediscovery. Others have all but vanished, their seeds scattered to history. Which ones will spark your curiosity? Before you fully sink into your pillow, a quick like and subscribe would mean the world if you're into sleepy stories like this. And I'd love to know where you're listening from. Post your location and local time in the comments below. Wherever you are, I hope tonight brings you rest, comfort, and maybe a curious dream or two. Let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine yourself standing in a medieval orchard just before dawn. The air is crisp, carrying the earthy aroma of damp soil and fallen leaves. Around you, the trees are alive with the hum of bees, their branches heavy with the fruit you may not recognize, but which medieval farmers prized: the quince. Golden knobby and intoxicatingly fragrant, the quince was a staple of medieval diets and culture. Unlike its softer, juicier cousins, the apple and pear, the quince is not typically eaten raw. Bite into one and you'll find it tannic, sour, and tough. But as the medieval saying goes, a quince is a treasure transformed by fire. Cook it, and it becomes something entirely different, sweet, fragrant, and lushly golden. Stewed quince was a common dish, often paired with honey or spices, and it was frequently made into marmalade long before oranges claimed the term. In the medieval kitchen, quince wasn't just food, it was art. Its transformation from hard and bitter to soft and sweet symbolized alchemy, a popular concept of the time. Cooks would layer slices of quince into pies, bake them with butter, or boil them into thick pastes that could be rolled, sugared, and preserved for the long winter months. These pastes, known as cotignac in France or membrillo in Spain, were prized treats, their deep flavor and vibrant color making them suitable for royalty. The quince's importance wasn't limited to the table. Its rich scent was used as a natural air freshener in medieval homes, particularly in wealthier households where it was placed in decorative bowls or carried in pomanders. And if you were feeling unwell, a quince might even find its way into your medicine. Physicians of the time believed it could cure everything from indigestion to bad humors thanks to its warming and astringent properties. Some herbal remedies called for quince seeds to soothe sore throats, or boiled quince to aid in digestion. But the quince wasn't just about practicality. It carried deep symbolic weight in medieval art and literature. In some depictions, the quince represented love, fertility, and the promise of abundance. It often appeared in wedding banquets and was associated with Venus, the Roman goddess of love. In fact, some scholars argue that the golden apple awarded to Aphrodite in Greek mythology might have actually been a quince. The quince's symbolic role extended to the spiritual realm as well. In Christian iconography, it sometimes appeared as a stand-in for the forbidden fruit in depictions of the Garden of Eden. Its hardiness and ability to ripen long after being picked also made it a symbol of endurance and faith qualities valued in medieval life. Now picture a medieval farmer tending to their quince trees. Growing quince was not an easy task. The trees required care to protect them from pests and diseases, and their fruit ripened late in the season, often just before the first frosts. Yet the effort was worth it. Quinces were resilient, long-lasting fruits that could be stored for months, making them invaluable in times of scarcity. Quinces weren't just grown in isolated orchards, they were often part of larger walled gardens, carefully designed to maximize the harvest, while also serving as places of beauty and contemplation. These gardens were a microcosm of medieval life, blending utility with aesthetics. Alongside the quince trees, you might find other forgotten fruits, medlars, damsons, and cornelian cherries, all thriving under the careful watch of the gardener. Historians still argue whether the decline of fruits like quince was due to the industrialization of agriculture or the changing tastes of modern consumers. Whatever the cause, the quince's role in history is undeniable. It was a fruit that connected people to their land, their culture, and their beliefs. Today, the quince survives in niche orchards and specialty markets, a relic of a time when its golden glow symbolized more than just sustenance. It represented transformation, resilience, and the sweet rewards of patience. As the sun rises higher, let's linger a moment in the orchard surrounded by the golden glow of ripened quinces. Imagine the hum of bees weaving through the air, the rustle of leaves as a gentle breeze stirs the branches, and the satisfaction of the farmer who knows their hard work will sustain their family through the winter. And as you step away from this golden scene, take with you the thought that some treasures like the quince are worth rediscovering not just for their flavor, but for the stories they carry. Step now into a world where the seasons turn like the pages of a well-worn book. The medieval farmer's life revolved around these cycles, and among the fruits they cherished was one with a peculiar twist, quite literally. The medlar, a fruit that might leave modern sensibilities puzzled, was a beloved oddity in its time. Imagine spotting a medlar tree in late autumn, its twisted branches bare except for the stubborn fruit clinging to them. Medlars, with their russet brown hue and star-shaped ends, were sometimes nicknamed open arses in medieval England, for reasons best left to your imagination. Despite its unflattering appearance, the medlar had a charm that went beyond its looks. What made the medlar unique was its ripening process. Picked hard and unpalatable medlars needed to be blended before they could be eaten, a process that involved letting them soften sometimes to the point of looking rotten. But don't let that deter you. Once blended, the medlar transformed into a rich custard-like delight with a flavor reminiscent of spiced apples and dates. The medlar was a seasonal delicacy, one of the few fresh fruits available during the cold winter months. Imagine a medieval banquet where dishes of spiced meat and heavy breads were accompanied by bowls of blended medlars, a small but exquisite counterpoint to the richness of the meal. For peasants, medlars offered a sweet treat when other fruits were long gone, their natural sugars providing a welcome boost of energy during the lean season. But the medlar was more than just a quirky snack. It carried symbolic weight as well. In medieval literature, the medlar often represented decay and transformation. Geoffrey Chaucer in the Canterbury Tales referred to it as a fruit of corruption. Yet this wasn't entirely negative. Decay was also a prelude to renewal, a theme deeply rooted in medieval thought. The medlar's ability to ripen after being picked made it a metaphor for delayed gratification, and the idea that good things come to those who wait. In herbal medicine, medlars were considered a remedy for digestive woes. Physicians might prescribe them for diarrhea or as a gentle laxative, blending practicality with folklore. The fruit's seeds were also sometimes ground into powders or used in poultices, their astringent properties thought to heal wounds or ease inflammation. Let's shift focus to the medieval garden where the medlar thrived. Unlike other fruits that preferred the sun-drenched orchards, medlars were surprisingly hardy. They could grow in poorer soils, their resilience making them ideal for regions where more delicate fruits might fail. Farmers valued this reliability, planting medlars alongside other sturdy trees like hawthorns and crabapples. A medieval farmer tending to their medlar tree would be acutely aware of the fruit's peculiar needs. Patience was key, not just in waiting for the fruit to blend, but in nurturing the tree through its growing season. Pruning was an art ensuring the tree remained healthy while allowing its fruit to ripen fully. Historians still argue about why fruits like the medlar fell out of favor. Some suggest that as trade routes expanded and more exotic fruits like oranges and bananas became available, simpler, homelier fruits were pushed aside. Others point to the rise of industrial farming, which prioritized fruits that could be shipped long distances without spoiling qualities the delicate medlar simply didn't possess. Today, the medlar is a rare find, a curiosity for gardeners and chefs who appreciate its unique history. But in the medieval world, it was a reminder that not everything worth having comes easily. The medlar's slow ripening process mirrored the rhythms of medieval life, where patience, persistence, and respect for nature's timing were essential virtues. Imagine yourself now standing beneath a medlar tree on a crisp winter's day. The fruit is ready, its flesh yielding to the slightest touch. You pick one bite into its soft, sweet interior, and taste a moment of medieval life, a time when even the humblest fruits carried profound lessons. And as the sun dips low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields, you can almost hear the echoes of those who came before their laughter toil, and stories entwined with the trees that sustained them. The quince, another forgotten fruit of medieval times, is your next stop in this journey. Imagine walking through an orchard in late summer, the air heavy with the perfume of ripening quinces. Their golden pear-like shape gleams in the sunlight, yet their hard, knobbly texture warns you not to bite into them raw. Quinces are one of the oldest cultivated fruits, their history intertwined with the myths and legends of ancient civilizations. By the Middle Ages, they were a fixture of European orchards, celebrated for their unique flavor and remarkable versatility. Unlike apples or pears, quinces couldn't be eaten straight from the tree. Their flesh was too hard, their taste too astringent. But with the alchemy of cooking quinces transformed into something magical, a sweet, fragrant delight that filled medieval kitchens with the warm aroma of honey and spices. Medieval cooks cherished quinces for their ability to enhance both sweet and savory dishes. Imagine a bustling kitchen in a lord's manor where a pot of quinces simmers slowly on the hearth. They might be stewed with cinnamon and cloves, their rich golden syrup poured over roasted meats or used as a filling for tarts. In monasteries where cooking was as much a spiritual act as a practical one, quinces were boiled down into pastes or jellies, their natural pectin, creating a thick, luscious texture. Quince preserves became a staple of medieval dining, their vibrant colors and intense flavors, brightening even the simplest meals. Marmalade, as we know it today, owes its origins to the quince. The word itself comes from marmelo, the Portuguese term for the fruit. In fact, the first marmalades were made not from oranges but from quinces. Their aromatic flesh boiled with sugar to create a treat fit for royalty. Beyond their culinary uses, quinces held a special place in the medieval imagination. Their golden hue and intoxicating fragrance made them symbols of love and fertility. In weddings, quinces were often given as gifts or used in rituals to bless the union. The fruit's connection to love even found its way into literature. In medieval romances, a knight might present a quince to his lady as a token of his devotion. But quinces weren't just romantic symbols, they were practical too. Their tough, waxy skin made them excellent for storage, allowing medieval households to enjoy their flavor long after the harvest. Farmers would wrap quinces in straw and store them in cool cellars where they could last for months. This resilience made them a valuable resource in times of scarcity, their sunny flavor a reminder of the abundance of summer. Medieval medicine also made use of the quince. Physicians believed the fruit had cooling properties ideal for treating fevers or inflammation. A poultice made from quince seeds was thought to soothe burns or wounds, while a syrup of quince might be prescribed for sore throats or digestive troubles. These remedies were often as much about belief as they were about science, but they reflect the deep respect medieval people had for the natural world and its healing potential. As you walk through a medieval market, imagine the sight of quinces piled high on wooden stalls. Their fragrance mingles with the scents of spices, freshly baked bread, and roasting meats. A farmer proudly displays his harvest offering slices of quince to curious buyers. Nearby, a confectioner stirs a pot of quince jelly, its golden color glinting in the morning light. Historians still argue about why quinces, once so revered, faded from prominence. Some suggest that the rise of softer, sweeter fruits like peaches and plums made quinces seem old-fashioned. Others point to the labor-intensive process of preparing quinces, which might have become less appealing as lifestyles changed. Yet the quince has never completely disappeared. It lingers in the traditions of certain regions, a culinary heirloom passed down through generations. Today, the quince is making a quiet comeback among gardeners and chefs who appreciate its history and unique qualities. Its resilience, both as a fruit and as a symbol, speaks to a time when food was more than sustenance. It was a connection to the land, to tradition, and to each other. Picture yourself now standing in a medieval orchard as the sun sets. The quinces glow like lanterns among the leaves, their fragrance filling the air. You pluck one from the tree, feeling its weight in your hand, and imagine the countless hands that have done the same through the centuries. It's a simple act, yet one rich with meaning, a reminder of the enduring bond between humanity and the natural world. As the evening deepens, the orchard falls silent, the quinces resting in the twilight. You carry one home, knowing that with a little patience and care, it will become something extraordinary. A taste of history, a link to a time when every fruit had a story to tell. Imagine a fruit so delicate that it could scarcely survive long journeys, yet so coveted that its fleeting presence could transform an ordinary feast into an occasion of prestige and celebration. This is the medlar, an enigmatic fruit whose odd appearance and peculiar ripening process made it a symbol of transformation and patience in medieval times. In your mind's eye, you wander into a walled garden, its trees casting long shadows in the fading afternoon sun. Among them stands a medlar tree, its twisted branches adorned with small russet fruits that resemble tiny open cups. The medlar doesn't immediately strike you as a fruit worthy of admiration. Its coarse skin and peculiar hollowed top might even seem unappealing at first glance. Yet, as you'll soon discover, the medlar is no ordinary fruit. It requires time and a touch of alchemy to reveal its true nature. Medlars were highly regarded in medieval Europe, especially among the elite who appreciated their unique qualities. Unlike most fruits, which are best eaten when freshly picked, the medlar needed to undergo a process known as bledding. After harvesting, the fruit was left to soften and decay slightly, a transformation that turned its once tart flesh into a rich, sweet pulp. Medieval cooks and herbalists believed this ripening process mirrored the human journey, a gradual mellowing with age that brought wisdom and sweetness to life. As you explore the garden, you notice baskets of medlars arranged on a stone bench, their coarse skins glinting in the soft light. A servant carefully inspects each one, arranging the ripest fruits on a silver platter to be served later. Medlars were often enjoyed as part of the dessert course, their pulp scooped out with a spoon and savored alongside spiced wine or honeyed cakes. They were also used to make preserves, pastes, and even fermented beverages, their earthy sweetness adding depth to medieval cuisine. The medlar's symbolic significance extended beyond the dining table. In medieval art and literature, the fruit often appeared as a metaphor for life's fleeting beauty and the inevitability of decay. Geoffrey Chaucer, in his Canterbury Tales, referred to the medlar as a fruit that is only good when it is rotten. This duality, the medlar's need to decay before it could be enjoyed, resonated with the society deeply attuned to the cycles of life and death. But the medlar wasn't merely a symbol of mortality, it also represented renewal. Its blooming flowers heralded the arrival of spring, and its fruiting season in late autumn offered a reminder that even as the year waned, there was sweetness to be found in life's later stages. This dual symbolism made the medlar a favorite of poets and philosophers who saw in it a reflection of the human condition. The fruit's medicinal properties further cemented its place in medieval life. Physicians prescribed medlar pulp for digestive issues, believing its gentle laxative effects could restore balance to the body. The fruit's astringent qualities were also thought to soothe sore throats and reduce inflammation. Like many medieval remedies, these uses were as much about tradition as they were about science. But they reveal the deep connection between medieval people and the natural world. As you wander through the garden, you overhear a conversation between two scholars debating the origins of the medlar. One insists it came to Europe from Persia, brought by ancient traders who valued its hardiness and flavor. The other argues that the medlar has been native to Europe for millennia, its presence documented in Roman gardens and medieval manuscripts alike. Historians still argue about the fruit's exact origins, but what is clear is its enduring appeal, a testament to its adaptability and charm. Picture yourself now in a bustling medieval market where medlars are displayed alongside other autumn fruits. Their earthy brown skins stand out among the vibrant reds and yellows of apples and pears, a reminder of their unique character. A merchant extols their virtues, urging customers to buy before the season ends. Nearby, a baker slices open a ripe medlar, its soft amber flesh glistening in the sunlight, as he prepares to fold it into a fragrant tart. The medlar's rarity and delicate nature made it a luxury item often reserved for the upper classes. Yet its symbolic resonance ensured it was appreciated by all who encountered it. In rural villages where life followed the rhythms of the land, the medlar's late harvest was a cause for celebration, a final gift from the orchard before winter's chill set in. As night falls and the garden grows quiet, you sit beneath the medlar tree, its branches heavy with fruit. The air is cool and fragrant, the stars just beginning to appear. You hold a medlar in your hand, marveling at its journey from an unassuming, unripe fruit to a sweet and storied delicacy. It's a reminder that time and patience can reveal unexpected beauty, that even in decay there is transformation and grace. In the flickering light of a nearby lantern, the medlar seems almost luminous, its rough skin glowing like polished bronze. You bite into its soft flesh, the sweetness spreading across your palate like a revelation. For a moment, you are connected to the countless people who have savored this fruit before you, farmers, nobles, poets, and dreamers, all drawn to its unique charm. As you rise to leave, the medlar tree stands as a quiet witness, its ancient branches stretching toward the sky. The fruit it bears is more than sustenance. It is a story, a symbol, and a gift from a time when every harvest was celebrated and every fruit was cherished. Close your eyes and step into a late summer orchard, the air heavy with the scent of ripening fruit and warm earth. Amid the greenery stands a tree laden with deep purple plums, their skins taut and glossy, catching the dappled sunlight. Unlike the familiar varieties we enjoy today, these medieval plums are smaller, more rustic in shape, and their flavors range from sweetly mellow to mouth-puckeringly tart. They are the kind of fruit that demands attention, whether as a treat plucked straight from the branch or a vital ingredient in the medieval kitchen. Plums were among the most versatile fruits of the Middle Ages, prized for their ability to be eaten fresh, dried, or preserved. In a time when food preservation was as much a necessity as an art, the plum reigned supreme. Its dried form, the humble prune, was a pantry staple across medieval Europe. Imagine sacks of wrinkled prunes stored in cool cellars, ready to be rehydrated and stewed into sweetened dishes or incorporated into savory recipes. These little packages of concentrated flavor were an essential ingredient in both peasant stews and royal banquets. As you wander through this imagined orchard, you notice laborers carefully gathering plums into wicker baskets. The fruit must be harvested at just the right moment when its flesh is perfectly ripe, but firm enough to withstand transport. Some of the plums are destined for the drying racks, where they will slowly lose their moisture in the sun, or over a low fire, their sugars intensifying as they shrink. Others will be taken to the kitchens, where they will be transformed into jams, pastes, and spiced sauces. Plum trees were a common sight in medieval gardens and orchards, their hardy nature making them well suited to the diverse climates of Europe. Whether in the warm, rolling hills of southern France or the cooler, rainier landscapes of England, plums thrived and provided nourishment throughout the year. Farmers often planted different varieties to ensure a continuous supply, from the early ripening greengages to the later season damsons. Each type had its own distinct characteristics, flavors, and uses. Picture now a medieval feast, the tables laden with dishes that celebrate the bounty of the harvest. Plums make their appearance in a dazzling array of forms. There's a tart filled with stewed plums and spices, its flaky crust browned to perfection. A bowl of golden honey and crushed almonds accompanies fresh slices of plum, their juices glistening like tiny jewels. Even the beverages bear the mark of the plum, a spiced plum wine that warms the soul and a tangy plum vinegar used to season the meat. Plums were also woven into the fabric of medieval medicine. Physicians praised their laxative properties, recommending prunes as a gentle remedy for digestive ailments. The fruit's natural sugars and vitamins made it a restorative food for the sick and weary. Herbalists believed that the tart varieties, when dried and ground into powders, could cool fevers and balance the humors. While the science of the time was often more poetic than practical, these beliefs highlight the deep connection medieval people had with the natural world and its remedies. As you stroll deeper into the orchard, you overhear a conversation between a farmer and a monk. They are debating the origin of their beloved plums. The farmer insists that plums have been cultivated in Europe for centuries, brought by Roman soldiers who valued the fruit's resilience. The monk, however, argues that the plum's ancestors hail from the wild forests of Asia, carried westward by ancient traders. Historians today continue to explore these origins, piecing together a story that spans continents and centuries. In this orchard, you also see children darting between the trees, their laughter filling the air. They are gathering the plums that have fallen to the ground, their small hands stained with sticky juice. For them, the fruit is not just sustenance, but a source of joy, a simple pleasure that connects them to the land and its cycles. The plum's cultural significance extended far beyond the orchard and kitchen. It appeared in folklore and literature as a symbol of abundance, temptation, and transformation. In one tale, a young maiden is granted a basket of magical plums that turn to gold when she bites into them, a reminder of the fruit's association with prosperity and fortune. In another, a cunning fox tricks a farmer into dropping his basket of plums, only to discover that the fruit was bitter, and unripe, a cautionary tale about greed and deception. Imagine now the quiet moments of a medieval village as the harvest winds down. A farmer sits beneath a plum tree, savoring the fruits of his labor. His hands, calloused from years of work, cradle a ripe plum as if it were a treasure. He bites into its flesh, the juice running down his chin, and for a moment the hardships of the year melt away. This is the essence of the plum, a humble fruit that nourishes the body, delights the senses, and reminds us of the simple joys that sustain life. As the sun sets, you leave the orchard, your basket heavy with plums and your heart full of gratitude. The trees stand as quiet sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. They are more than just providers of fruit. They are witnesses to the passage of time, keepers of traditions and symbols of resilience. And so the plum endures, a fruit of humble origins and extraordinary versatility, rooted in the past but ever present in the stories we tell and the flavors we savor. The path ahead leads you away from the orchard and toward a winding hillside where clusters of vines cling to the rocky soil. These are not the sprawling vineyards of grapes that might first come to mind, but instead a patchwork of carefully tended medlar trees. Their gnarled branches twist and curl, giving them an almost mystical appearance, as if they have secrets to share. And in their midst, hanging like strange ancient ornaments, are the medlar fruits themselves, small russet and utterly unique. The medlar is a fruit that defies modern expectations. To our sensibilities, it is an acquired taste, one that speaks to the medieval palate more than the contemporary one. Its peculiar nickname, open arse, hints at its unusual shape, with a blossom end that resembles a puckered flower. You can't help but smile at the bluntness of medieval humor, which found its way even into horticulture. Unlike most fruits, medlars are not eaten fresh from the tree. Pick one too soon and its flesh is hard, astringent, and unpleasantly sour. Instead, medlars require a process known as bledding, a slow, deliberate ripening that softens the fruit until it reaches a state of near decay. This transformation is where the magic happens. After weeks of resting in straw-lined crates or cool cellars, the medlar becomes something entirely different. Its pulp darkens to a rich brown, Its flavors mellow into a mix of spiced apple and sweet date, and its texture takes on a creamy custard-like quality. In medieval kitchens, the medlar's versatility shone through. Its blet stage made it perfect for sweetened tarts where its deep flavors mingled with cinnamon, cloves, and honey. It was also a prized ingredient in sauces, particularly those accompanying game meats like venison or boar. The fruit's earthy undertones complemented the rich, hearty dishes of the time, creating a balance that medieval cooks prized. As you imagine the scene, picture a small medieval town preparing for its winter festivities. The medlar harvest is complete and the fruits are stored away, awaiting their transformation. Women bustle in the kitchens, their hands deftly slicing the softened medlars and mixing them with flour and butter to bake into fragrant pies. Children peer eagerly into the ovens, their faces lit with anticipation, while elders sit by the hearth recounting tales of winters past. Medlars also had a role in medieval medicine, where their peculiar properties were both celebrated and debated. Physicians of the time believed the fruit could aid digestion, cure diarrhea, and even serve as a remedy for sore throats. Herbalists prepared medlar poultices for wounds and used its seeds ground into powders to treat kidney ailments. The process of bledding was seen as almost alchemical, a transformation that mirrored the body's own ability to heal and regenerate. Of course not. Everyone saw the medlar in such a glowing light. Its association with decay gave it a darker symbolism in medieval literature and art. Poets like Chaucer and Shakespeare used the medlar as a metaphor for moral corruption and the fleeting nature of beauty. Rotten before ripe was a phrase often associated with the fruit, a reminder of its dual nature, at once a symbol of nourishment and a harbinger of decline. As you stand beneath the medlar trees in this imagined hillside, the wind carries the scent of earth and leaves mingling with the faint sweetness of the ripening fruit. You notice the care with which the trees have been tended, their branches pruned and their roots mulched. This is not a crop of abundance like wheat or barley, but a labor of love grown for its rarity and its connection to the rhythms of the season. Historians still debate whether the medlar's decline in popularity was due to changing tastes or the advent of new fruits brought by global trade. By the Renaissance, the medlar had begun to fade into obscurity, overshadowed by the arrival of the apple, the pear, and eventually tropical fruits like oranges and bananas. Yet in its heyday, the medlar was a fruit that symbolized patience, transformation, and the quiet rewards of the natural world. Before leaving the hillside, you pluck a medlar from one of the trees, its skin slightly wrinkled from the early stages of bledding. The fruit is heavier than you expect, its weight a promise of the richness inside. You bite into its softened flesh, and a cascade of flavors greets you, earthy, sweet, and strangely comforting. For a moment, you are connected to those who came before, to the medieval farmers who nurtured these trees and the cooks who turned their fruits into sustenance. As the sun dips lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the hillside, you carry the memory of the medlar with you. It is a fruit that teaches patience, that rewards those who wait, and that reminds us of the beauty in life's imperfections. Your journey takes you from the medlar trees to a bustling village marketplace, alive with the sights, sounds, and smells of medieval trade. Amidst the clamor of merchants hawking their wares and villagers bartering over bread and cheese, a distinctive stall catches your attention. Here, displayed with pride and care, are trays of small, dark, glistening fruits mulberries. Their deep purple and crimson hues stand out like jewels against the rough-hewn wooden table, drawing curious glances from passers-by. The mulberry tree, beloved in the medieval world, carried both practical and symbolic importance. Its fruit, though delicate and short-lived, was a treasured treat often consumed fresh during its fleeting season, or transformed into preserved syrups and medicinal tinctures. Beyond its culinary uses, the mulberry tree itself was highly valued for its silken leaves, essential for feeding silkworms in the early silk-producing regions of Europe. You approach the stall-keeper, an older woman with calloused hands and a warm smile, who offers you a taste of her wares. Plucking a mulberry from the tray, you pop it into your mouth. Its flavor bursts forth sweet tart and intensely juicy with a richness that lingers. She explains how her family tends to the mulberry trees, pruning them carefully each year to ensure a bountiful harvest. The trees are like children, she says. Feed them well and they'll feed you back. The mulberry's origins stretch far back into antiquity. Historians believe it was first cultivated in Asia, where its role in the silk trade was indispensable. By the medieval period, the mulberry had made its way across Europe, becoming a symbol of both prosperity and resilience. The fruit was often planted in monastic gardens where its medicinal properties could be put to use by the resident herbalists. In medieval medicine, mulberries were considered a cure-all for various ailments. The fruit's juice, rich in vitamins and antioxidants, was used to soothe sore throats and coughs, while the leaves were brewed into teas for fever and inflammation. The bark of the tree, stripped and powdered, was believed to have purgative properties used to cleanse the body of toxins. Some physicians even recommended mulberry wine as a tonic for the heart, claiming it could invigorate the spirit and strengthen the blood. As you wander deeper into the market, you notice a group of children gathered around another mulberry stall. Their fingers and mouths are stained a vivid purple as they giggle and devour the berries with delight. The scene is a testament to the fruit's universal appeal, simple, sweet, and utterly irresistible. Nearby, a baker is arranging mulberry tarts in neat rows, their golden crust contrasting with the dark, glossy filling. The aroma wafts through the air, mingling with the scent of fresh bread and roasting meat. The mulberry also held symbolic significance in medieval culture. Its rapid growth and abundant fruiting made it a metaphor for fertility and abundance, while its deep red juice was sometimes likened to blood, invoking themes of sacrifice and redemption. In art and literature, the mulberry tree often appeared as a symbol of transformation, its seasonal cycle echoing the rhythms of life and death. One of the most famous references to the mulberry comes from the ancient Roman poet Ovid, whose tale of Pyramus and Thisbe recounts how the fruit's dark hue was born. According to the myth, the white berries of the mulberry tree were stained red by the lovers' tragic deaths, a story that resonated with medieval audiences and was often retold in illuminated manuscripts and tapestries. As you leave the marketplace, the memory of the mulberry lingers, its sweetness still on your tongue. The fruit is a reminder of life's fleeting pleasures, a taste of summer that fades all too quickly but leaves an enduring impression. In the medieval world, where every harvest was a triumph and every meal a celebration, the mulberry was more than just a fruit. It was a symbol of gratitude and abundance. The sun continues its journey across the sky, casting golden light over the village and the surrounding fields. In the distance, you catch sight of a mulberry grove, its trees heavy with fruit. The scene is tranquil yet vibrant, a snapshot of medieval life at its most harmonious. Farmers move among the rows, their baskets filling steadily as they work. Each berry represents not just sustenance, but a connection to the land, to the seasons, and to the enduring cycles of nature. As you walk away from the market, you carry with you the story of the mulberry, a fruit that bridges the gap between history and myth, between survival and indulgence. It is a fruit that reminds us to savor the sweetness of the moment, even as we prepare for the challenges ahead. The countryside unfolds before you in a patchwork of greens and browns, dotted with orchards and fields where farmers toil under the midday sun. Your path leads you to a small family farm nestled near the edge of a forest. Here the focus is on a fruit once beloved in medieval times, but now almost forgotten, the quince. At first glance, the quince tree might seem unremarkable. Its branches, gnarled and weathered, stretch upward as though reaching for the heavens. But as you draw closer, you notice its fruit, large golden yellow and slightly misshapen, exuding a subtle sweet aroma. The quince, though too astringent to eat raw, was a culinary cornerstone of the medieval world, cherished for its ability to be transformed into something extraordinary. The farmer greets you warmly and offers to show you the uses of this ancient fruit. In the kitchen of their modest home, the air is filled with the scent of spices, cinnamon, cloves, and ginger, mingling with the quince's natural perfume. A pot bubbles gently over the fire, and the farmer explains how the quince is peeled, sliced and slowly cooked with honey or sugar until it softens and its pale flesh turns a deep, translucent amber. This creation, known as quince paste or membrillo, is a delicacy that pairs perfectly with cheese or freshly baked bread. In medieval cuisine, the quince was considered a noble fruit often featured in feasts and banquets. It was baked into pies, stewed into compotes, or preserved in syrup, becoming a symbol of wealth and refinement. But the quince was more than just a treat for the palate. It was also revered for its medicinal properties. Medieval physicians praised it for its ability to soothe the stomach, strengthen the heart, and even cure ailments of the liver. Recipes for quince remedies can be found in ancient manuscripts blending the fruit with herbs and spices to create potions that promised health and vitality. The quince also held a special place in the hearts of poets and storytellers. Its association with love and fertility made it a popular motif in art and literature. In Greek mythology, the quince was known as the golden apple, the fruit of Aphrodite, goddess of love. During the medieval period, it became a symbol of romantic devotion, often included in wedding celebrations and exchanged as a token of affection. As the farmer continues to prepare the quince paste, they recount how the fruit's toughness represents resilience and patience. The quince doesn't give up its sweetness easily, they say. You have to work for it, but the reward is worth the effort. This sentiment resonates with the rhythms of medieval life, where perseverance was a necessity and every harvest was a triumph. Outside, the orchard hums with activity. Bees flit from flower to flower, their buzzing a soothing counterpoint to the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. The quince trees, though fewer in number compared to other fruits, are tended with great care. Their blossoms in spring, delicate and pale pink, are a sight to behold, promising a bountiful harvest in the months to come. Quinces were also preserved for the winter months when fresh fruit was scarce. In monasteries and grand estates alike, jars of quince preserves lined the shelves, their golden contents a testament to the ingenuity of medieval cooks. These preserves, often spiced and sweetened, brought a taste of sunshine to the darkest days of the year, reminding people of the cyclical nature of time and the promise of renewal. Historians still argue whether the quince's decline in popularity was due to its challenging preparation or the rise of more convenient fruits like apples and pears. Yet those who continue to grow and savor quinces insist that its unique flavor and versatility are unmatched. The quince remains a fruit of stories, one that connects us to the past and inspires us to appreciate the beauty of transformation. As you leave the farmer hands you a small jar of quince paste, its contents gleaming in the afternoon light. A taste of history, they say with a smile. The gift feels like a piece of the medieval world itself, a reminder of the time when every fruit carried a story and every meal was a celebration of life's abundance. Walking back through the orchard, you reflect on the quince's journey from its origins in ancient Persia to its role in the kitchens and apothecaries of medieval Europe. It is a fruit that embodies the values of a bygone era, patience, ingenuity, and the ability to find sweetness even in the most challenging circumstances. The sun dips lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the fields. In the distance, the sound of laughter and conversation drifts on the breeze, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. The quince trees stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time, their branches bearing the weight of history and the promise of future harvests. The warm glow of the setting sun leads you toward a small, bustling village market where life moves at its own ancient rhythm. Stalls are draped in cloth dyed with deep indigo and rich russet colors that have faded just enough to speak of countless days under sun and rain. Here among the familiar faces and the scent of freshly baked bread, you discover a fruit almost lost to time, the medlar. It's an unassuming fruit, often overlooked for its rough brown skin and peculiar shape, but the medlar holds secrets worth uncovering. Unlike apples or pears, it is not eaten fresh. Instead, it must undergo a process known as bledding. This process, which you observe with curious fascination, involves waiting for the fruit to soften after the first frost, until its flesh becomes sweet and custard-like, almost melting away. The medieval villagers cherish this transformation, likening it to a slow, deliberate alchemy of nature. The medlar's journey from firm and bitter to soft and luscious is mirrored in the stories told around the market fire. You overhear an elderly woman recounting tales of how medlars were considered aphrodisiacs in some parts of Europe, believed to kindle passion and bring lovers closer. Such beliefs weave the fruit into the rich tapestry of medieval folklore where the lines between food medicine and magic blur. In the shadows of a nearby stall, you spot a basket filled with medlars and take a closer look. Their texture, you note, is oddly reminiscent of a tiny rustic lantern, and you wonder if their appearance inspired the many superstitions surrounding them. Some believed medlars to ward off evil spirits, while others saw them as symbols of patience and delayed gratification. After all, only through time could their true sweetness be revealed. The villagers' relationship with the medlar speaks volumes about the medieval mindset. Patience was not merely a virtue, but a necessity, especially in agriculture and food preservation. Unlike today's instant gratification, medieval farmers and cooks embraced the slow, the waiting, the becoming. They understood that nature's timetable was not always their own. As you wander through the market, you notice how the medlar is often paired with spices like cinnamon and cloves, intensifying its flavor in pies, preserves, and even wines. Its subtle tartness cuts through the richness of honey and nuts, making it a favorite in festive dishes. A young merchant offers you a slice of medlar tart dusted lightly with powdered sugar and nuts, and you savor the complex, mellow sweetness that seems to hold centuries of tradition in every bite. You recall the medieval use of medlar in remedies, too. Physicians of the time believed it could soothe digestive troubles and calm restless spirits, and recipes for medlar-based potions survive in some of the oldest herbals. Historians still argue whether its medicinal reputation was based more on observed effects or hopeful symbolism. But the fruit's place in medieval apothecaries is undeniable. As dusk settles, the market begins to quiet, but the medlar remains a humble treasure glowing softly under the fading light. You tuck a small medlar fruit into your satchel, feeling connected to the hands that harvested and prepared it long ago. This fruit, often dismissed by modern palates, carries with it lessons about patience, tradition, and the deep-rooted connection between people and the earth. The medlar's slow ripening is a gentle reminder that sometimes the sweetest rewards come only after wading through the cold and dark. And perhaps in a world rushing toward instant everything, this is a lesson we could all stand to remember. You follow the winding village paths, away from the market's fading bustle, drawn by the rhythmic sound of hammer on anvil, a blacksmith at work shaping iron beneath a glowing forge. Around him, wooden buckets and woven baskets hold the tools and fruits of his labor. Yet it's not the clang of metal that pulls your attention now, but a curious, oddly shaped fruit resting on a nearby wooden bench, the quince. The quince, with its bright golden skin, dusted lightly in a pale fuzz, is a fruit with a reputation as rich as its aroma. You notice the way the blacksmith's wife gently cradles one in her hands, inhaling deeply before slicing it into thin pieces. The fragrance is almost intoxicating, an alluring blend of floral and citrus notes that fills the air like a promise. Unlike the crisp apples you're used to, the quince is firm and tart, almost too hard to eat raw. But cooked, it transforms into a sweet, fragrant delight. In medieval kitchens, quince was a staple for its versatility and medicinal properties. You imagine the cook stirring bubbling pots of quince jelly, their flames flickering against pots of preserved fruits and spiced wines. It was prized not just for its taste, but for its ability to keep well, a precious attribute in times before refrigeration. You recall the use of quince in pottages and meat sauces, where its sharpness cut through the richness, balancing flavors in a way that made simple meals feel festive. As you watch the blacksmith's wife dip quince slices into a mixture of honey and crushed spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, and perhaps a hint of ginger, you catch a glimpse of the medieval palate's love for complex tastes. Sweet, sour, and spicy all at once, these dishes were crafted to surprise and delight. Much like the ornate tapestries that hung in manor halls, the quince's symbolic weight also intrigues you. In the medieval Christian tradition, quince was sometimes associated with fertility and love, often given as gifts in courtship rituals. You imagine young lovers exchanging quince tokens beneath moonlit trees, their hopes and fears encoded in the fragrant flesh of the fruit. It's a poetic reminder of how food and feeling intertwined in medieval life. Historians still argue whether quince's popularity was driven more by its culinary value or by the symbolic meanings layered upon it by poets and priests. Either way, it was essential to both tables and hearts. The fruit's presence in medieval gardens alongside herbs like rosemary and thyme points to the holistic approach to food medicine and magic that defined the era. Near the forge, a small group gathers to watch a traveling minstrel, his lute strings ringing softly as he sings of heroes and hearths. His song drifts through the village air, mingling with the scent of quince and freshly baked bread. You think about the many ways stories and sustenance nurtured this community, how the fruit on your tongue and the tales in your ears formed a tapestry of comfort and continuity. You take a bite of a quince paste given to you by a smiling child, its sweetness lingering long after the last crumb disappears. The taste is a bridge to the past, a sensory connection to a world where every meal was an act of care, and every fruit a bearer of meaning. Later, as you leave the blacksmith's village and head toward the edge of a nearby orchard, you catch sight of quince trees heavy with golden fruit, their branches bowing under the weight. The late afternoon sun filters through the leaves, casting a warm glow that seems to seal the day's memories in amber light. You realize that quince is more than a fruit. It's a symbol of endurance and sweetness forged through time and trial, much like the people who tended these orchards and the hands that shaped the iron at the forge. And in this quiet moment, you appreciate how medieval life with all its challenges found richness in the simple pleasures of harvest and hearth. You wander past the orchard, the afternoon sun dipping lower and softening the landscape into warm hues of russet and saffron, and find yourself approaching a humble field where wild medlar trees stand their gnarled branches heavy with small russet-brown fruits. The medlar, you learn, is one of those forgotten medieval delicacies that seems to have slipped through the cracks of modern gardens. Yet it was once a common sight among farmers and townsfolk alike. At first glance, the medlar's fruit appears uninviting, its puckered skin wrinkled and rough like a miniature shriveled apple left too long on a windowsill. but as you lean closer, the scent of mellow apple and cinnamon teases your nostrils, promising a flavor hidden beneath its austere exterior. This fruit is not meant to be eaten fresh off the tree, but requires a process known as bledding, where the medlar is left to soften and ferment, slightly transforming its hardness into a sweet, rich pulp. This gentle decay unlocks its true potential, a taste somewhere between spiced apple butter and subtle caramel. You watch a nearby woman carefully gathering medlars in a woven basket lined with moss, her hands stained faintly with their juice. She chats with neighbors about how the fruit is prized not only for its flavor but for its medicinal qualities. Medieval herbals praise the medlar as a remedy for digestive troubles, and even melancholy, suggesting it could soothe both body and spirit, a fruity panacea for the weary. This dual purpose of food and medicine was typical of medieval diets where the lines between nourishment and healing were blurred. Unlike our modern boxed supplements, these fruits were the original functional foods, used as much for health as for pleasure. You recall a scholar's debate you once overheard historians still argue whether medieval dietary choices were driven more by necessity or by a nuanced understanding of natural remedies. Regardless, the medlar's place in these diets speaks to a culture deeply attuned to the natural world's rhythms. Nearby children play a curious game rolling small medlar fruits on the ground, watching as their brown skins glisten in the dappled light. You remember reading about medieval pastimes that often involved simple earthy objects from the environment, stones, nuts, and in this case, fruits, turning everyday life into a mosaic of spontaneous play and community bonding. The medlar then was not only food, but a token of childhood joy, a connection between nature and nurture. You step further into the field and spot a pair of farmers, one clad in indigo-dyed linen, the other in a patchwork tunic of russet and teal, carefully pruning the medlar trees. They discuss the best timing for harvest, explaining that picking too early leaves the fruit too hard to bled, while waiting too long risks losing it to birds or rot. This balance between patience and urgency echoes the precariousness of medieval agriculture itself, where timing was everything. The medlar's thorny branches seem to guard its treasures like a small fortress, and you notice the tiny gilded flourishes of dew glinting on leaves, almost as if the orchard itself is part of an illuminated manuscript. The subtle parchment-like texture of the soil beneath your feet reminds you that every step here is a step through history, through a living archive of ancient knowledge. Later, as the sun begins to set, you find yourself near a medieval kitchen hearth, where a cook stirs a bubbling pot of medlar jelly, its deep amber color catching the firelight. The aroma is sweet, spiced with hints of clove and honey. She explains that this jelly, once cooled and set, is served alongside hearty cheeses or spread on coarse bread, a prized delicacy in winter months when fresh fruit was scarce. You pause to savor a small spoonful and marvel at how the medlar's transformation from hard, unyielding fruit to soft, sweet preserve mirrors the resilience and adaptability of medieval communities. Just like their fruit, these people took what nature offered and turned it into something nourishing and enduring. There's a touch of whimsy in this fruit story, too. You learn that medlars were sometimes referred to as open arse fruit, due to their distinctive shape, a detail that would have surely amused medieval jesters and peasants alike. Tales about medlars' suggestive forms and names found their way into folklore and poetry, a playful reminder that humor and sensuality were never far beneath the surface of daily life. And speaking of humor, you can't help but smile at the thought of medieval conversations about such cheeky fruits, perhaps whispered behind hands or chuckled over in the flickering candlelight of a tavern. These moments of levity were as vital as any feast, providing relief from the hard work and hardship that defined much of medieval existence. As night falls fully, you imagine the medlar trees silhouetted against the deepening sky, their branches bare, save for a few lingering fruits glowing softly under the moon. The orchard seems to hold its breath, resting until the cycle of seasons begins anew, much like the quiet endurance of the people who tended it. Historians still argue whether medlar's decline in popularity was due to changing tastes or the rise of more easily cultivated fruits like apples and pears. But to you, the medlar remains a symbol of forgotten sweetness, an echo of a world where patience and transformation were not just agricultural practices but ways of life. You tuck a small medlar fruit into your cloak pocket as a keepsake, a tangible link to this vanished yet enduring piece of the medieval world. Tomorrow, you think might bring new discoveries, but tonight the medlar's quiet story will keep you company in your dreams. The next morning, as dawn creeps over the horizon, you return to the medlar orchard to find a small group gathered beneath the trees, local herbalists and women known for their knowledge of plants. They are busy preparing poultices and syrups, mixing medlar pulp with honey, vinegar, and other herbs. The mingling scents of earth and sweetness drift through the air, a quiet testament to the seamless blend of cuisine and medicine in medieval life. You listen as one elder explains that medlar was used to treat everything from stomach aches to fever, and even as a mild astringent for wounds. This kind of folk wisdom was passed down orally and in handwritten herbals, where illustrations often featured delicate brown ink outlines of the fruit, alongside small gilded flourishes of leaves and flowers. The artistry of these manuscripts wasn't just decoration, but a way to honor the sacred knowledge contained within. This intertwining of beauty and utility embodies the medieval mindset where the natural world was a living text. Each plant, a word, each tree, a story. You ponder how this contrasts with today's compartmentalized science, where food medicine and art often live in separate spheres. The medlar orchard, you realize, is a microcosm of that holistic worldview. Nearby, a pair of children chase a small woven reed ball through the grass, their laughter mingling with the soft rustle of branches. You notice one child clutching a tiny scarab amulet, just like the one you carry, a reminder of the ancient beliefs that still pulse through daily life, linking past and present. Your thoughts drift to the scholarly debates you've read. Historians still argue whether these medlar-centered traditions were widespread or confined to specific regions, and how much of their significance was lost as medieval Europe's fruit palate expanded and modern tastes took hold. Yet the orchard's quiet resilience speaks for itself. You watch the sun climb higher, the golden light dappling through the leaves and setting tiny motes of dust aglow. It's a moment of peaceful reverence, a chance to breathe in the enduring magic of a fruit that has survived in stories and hidden corners, waiting patiently for rediscovery. As you step away, you feel a quiet gratitude for these small, almost forgotten treasures. The medlar, its earthy sweetness, and the world of medieval farmers who nurtured it through cycles of hardship and hope. In the tapestry of history, even the humblest fruit can carry the weight of culture, healing, and joy. And so, carrying that medlar close to your heart, you continue your journey through the medieval landscape, ready to uncover the next hidden gem among the 15 forgotten fruits that once fed a world both strange and familiar. You find yourself walking into a sun-drenched vineyard, the heavy scent of ripening grapes hanging thick in the air. Rows upon rows of vines stretch toward the horizon, their leaves a deep indigo green under the warm medieval sun. Grapes weren't just for making wine, though. Monks perfected that craft in cloistered abbeys. They were also a prized fresh fruit, eaten at feasts and in everyday meals alike. You watch as a handful of farmers clad in russet tunics and simple sandals carefully harvest bunches, filling woven wicker baskets with glossy purple and pale green spheres. Nearby, a young woman expertly crushes some grapes by foot in a shallow wooden vat, laughter bubbling up around her. The crushed juice runs red and sweet, a sign of life's simple pleasures amid the harshness of medieval toil. You notice a small wooden bucket resting beside her, stained with the same deep hues and wonder. If it will be used for fermenting wine or something else, a reminder that medieval agriculture was full of practical dualities. You recall the curious fact that some medieval people believed grapes could ward off evil spirits, especially if hung over doorways during the harvest season. It seems the boundary between food and superstition was as blurred then as it sometimes is now. Historians still argue whether these practices originated from pagan rites or were later Christianized, but their influence shaped rituals that linked human survival with divine favor. As you stroll through the vineyard, your eyes catch the glimmer of tiny gold leaf highlights on a nearby manuscript. Displayed at the farmer's makeshift table, a recipe book, its brown ink script describing grape-based remedies and culinary delights. This delicate blending of text and imagery, reminiscent of a late 15th century illuminated manuscript, fascinates you. The tiny gilded flourishes catching the sunlight, much like the grapes themselves. The midday sun warms your skin as a breeze carries the faint melody of a lyre, played somewhere in the village notes, drifting over the fields and adding a sense of calm to the scene. You can almost imagine yourself sitting down to a medieval banquet where clusters of fresh grapes and honeyed wine provide sweetness after a day of labor. You wonder if the grape's dual role as food and symbol of celebration helped it endure through centuries of change. While modern vineyards often focus on wine production, these medieval grapes tell a story of community ritual and resilience, a living link between past and present nature and culture. And so, leaving the vineyard behind your hands, still tingling with the memory of crushed fruit, you prepare to step into the next forgotten orchard, eager to uncover the next chapter in the story of medieval fruits and farmers. The morning sun spreads its gentle light over a small, untamed orchard, tucked away behind a cluster of humble farmhouses. You walk among the gnarled branches of ancient medlar trees, their knobby fruits hanging like strange little lanterns, ripe and ready for harvest. Medlars, yes. Medlars might not be the star of any modern fruit bowl, but medieval farmers valued them highly for their unique taste and curious qualities. You reach out and pick one, feeling the rough skin beneath your fingers and noting the smell, earthy, slightly sweet, with a hint of fermented muskiness. It's a fruit that insists on patience, as it needs to undergo a process called bledding softening until it becomes almost creamy, a delicacy for those who wait. Nearby, a woman in a saffron dress gently places medlars into a woven basket lined with dried leaves, careful not to bruise the precious cargo. You catch the soft murmur of her conversation with a child whose small hands mimic hers, both learning the slow rhythm of the orchard. The child's bare feet shuffle on the dry earth, a tiny dance that seems as old as the trees themselves. You can almost hear the crackle of fallen leaves underfoot and smell the mingling scents of fruit and wood smoke drifting from nearby hearths. Medlars are more than just food here. They carry a mystical air believed by some to possess medicinal powers, easing digestion and calming fevers. It's said in quiet circles that medlar fruit was used to make remedies for ailments ranging from stomach troubles to melancholy, a humble yet potent symbol of nature's healing. You remember a curious detail you once read. Some medieval texts describe medlar wood as good for carving talismans, linking the fruit to protective magic in daily life. Historians still argue whether these beliefs originated from classical herbal traditions or local folk knowledge. But either way, medlars held a firm place in the medieval mindset. As you wander deeper into the orchard, the patchy shade plays over an old wooden bench, and a man leans back there smoothing a small leather pouch filled with dried medlar seeds. His hands are calloused but steady, and his face wears the calm of someone who has lived in harmony with the cycles of the land for decades. You notice nearby a clay pot filled with a reddish-brown liquid, likely a traditional fermented medlar drink called mead, which, while obscure today, was once a popular refreshment among medieval peasants and lords alike. You watch as the man offers a cup to a passing neighbor, and they exchange a few words in their ancient dialect words thick with history and community. The sharing of food and drink here is a social ritual as much as nourishment, a reminder that medieval life thrived on bonds between people as much as crops. The texture of the moment, the creaking of the wooden bench, the faint rustle of leaves, the soft laughter feels timeless. Nearby, a basket overflows with other lesser-known fruits, cornelian cherries, elderberries, and sloes, each with its own story and flavor. The variety is staggering, reminding you that medieval diets were richer and more diverse than the modern eye often assumes. Among these fruits, the medlar stands out not just for its flavor, but for its deep cultural resonance, a fruit that demands attention and respect. You pause to consider how the medlar's obscurity today contrasts with its medieval prominence. Perhaps it fell out of favor because of its odd preparation needs, or maybe the rise of new fruit imports shifted tastes away. Yet, in this orchard, the medlar remains king, a quiet survivor of centuries of change, whispering secrets of ancient fields and the patient hands that tended them. As the sun climbs higher, the orchard's light shifts, gilding the medlars in a warm glow, and you feel a peculiar comfort in the slow rhythms of this place. It's a reminder that history isn't just dates and wars, it's the small, persistent details of everyday life, the fruits people ate and believed in, and the stories woven into those choices. You tuck a medlar into your pocket, a tangible connection to those medieval farmers who, like you, found beauty and sustenance in the overlooked and forgotten. The next chapter beckons, and with a soft breeze carrying the scent of ripe fruit and earth, you step onward. You find yourself wandering toward the village's small herb garden, a humble patch of earth bordered by rough-hewn stones and sprouting a riot of greenery under the midday sun. This modest plot may not look like much to the untrained eye, but to medieval farmers it was a treasure trove of forgotten fruits and medicinal plants, many of which have slipped through the cracks of history. Today, you're here to meet the serviceberry, a fruit that once adorned these gardens and tables, yet now dwells mostly in the shadows of obscurity. The serviceberry tree, sometimes called the Juneberry or shadbush, stands proudly in one corner, its slender branches bending under the weight of tiny round fruits that gleam a deep, glossy indigo, almost black. The fruit resembles a miniature blueberry, but carries a slightly nutty almond-like flavor when ripe. You pluck a handful and feel the cool smoothness of the berries in your palm, their delicate skins giving way with a satisfying pop. You pop one in your mouth, and the subtle sweetness floods your senses, a taste both familiar and foreign at once. Medieval farmers prized the serviceberry not only for its flavor, but also for its resilience. Unlike some other fruits that demanded careful tending and irrigation, serviceberries thrived in poor soils and cooler climates, making them an ideal companion for scattered medieval homesteads and small holdings. The fruit could be eaten fresh dried for winter stores or transformed into preserves and mead. You imagine a smoky hearth in a peasant's cottage where serviceberry preserves might sweeten coarse bread or warm porridge. You notice the gardener, an elderly man with a weathered face and twinkling eyes, tending to the bushes with careful hands. His russet tunic is speckled with soil, and he hums a low melody as he prunes and weeds, a daily ritual intertwined with reverence for the land. When he catches your eye, he gestures toward a small wooden sign adorned with delicate gilded flourishes naming the tree Amelanchier in the local tongue. He explains well if you imagine a gentle nod and a smile that service berries were once common throughout medieval Europe, a quiet staple overshadowed by more glamorous fruits like apples and cherries. The garden air is thick with the mingled aromas of herbs, sage-thyme lavender, and faint traces of the fruit's sweet musk. Nearby, you spot a small wooden bucket half filled with freshly picked service berries, ready for the afternoon market. The sight is oddly comforting, a reminder that the medieval diet wasn't just about survival. It was about savoring moments of sweetness and color amid hard work and uncertainty. You remember a curious medieval belief about service berries. Some thought the fruit was connected to the afterlife consumed at funerals, or during sacred rituals as a symbol of rebirth and transition. It's fascinating how many forgotten fruits carried layers of meaning beyond mere nourishment, embodying spiritual, medicinal, and cultural significance. Historians still argue whether these rituals were widespread or localized customs, but the intertwining of food and faith is undeniable. As you wander deeper into the garden, you catch sight of a pair of children playing near the fence, laughing as they chase one another around the sturdy trunks of serviceberry and hawthorn trees. Their carefree joy is timeless, a scene unchanged by centuries. One child holds out a handful of berries, offering a silent invitation to taste the sweetness of forgotten days. Nearby, an aged scribe sits on a wooden bench, his fingers stained with ink and his face lined with concentration. He's busy sketching the serviceberry branches in a small weathered notebook, recording their shape and character for future generations. The presence of scribes like him reminds you that medieval farming wasn't just physical labor. It was also a scholarly pursuit, a careful documentation of the natural world that blended observation with myth and tradition. You pause to consider the serviceberry's modern, near invisibility. In today's fast-paced world, with supermarket shelves filled with uniform, brightly colored fruits, such humble and versatile fruits seem almost anachronistic. Yet, in this quiet garden, surrounded by the buzz of bees and the soft rustle of leaves, service berries feel like a secret treasure waiting to be rediscovered. You imagine medieval cooks experimenting with these berries, baking tarts, sweetening mead, mixing them with honey or spices. Their adaptability mirrors the medieval spirit, practical, inventive, and deeply connected to the seasons. The garden feels like a living time capsule, a reminder that the past was never truly lost, but rather waiting patiently beneath the surface, ready to bloom again. As the afternoon light softens, you tuck a few service berries into your pocket, a small talisman of this quiet place. The gardener waves goodbye and you walk toward the market square, your steps lightened by the lingering sweetness of this humble fruit. The journey through forgotten medieval fruits continues, and with each bite, each scent, you travel deeper into the rich textured tapestry of the past. You step into the bustling market square as the afternoon sun bathes the cobblestones in a warm, golden glow. The air is alive with the mingling scents of spices, fresh bread, and earthy produce, a vivid tapestry of smells that would have greeted any medieval visitor. Your eyes scan the stalls where a familiar yet neglected fruit takes center stage today, the medlar. These odd russet-colored fruits look more like something from a witch's potion than the vibrant apples and pears crowding neighboring stands. But their story is rich with history and peculiar charm. Medlars are unique, requiring a curious process called bledding, where the fruit is left to soften and slightly ferment after picking, transforming its tough flesh into a sweet, tangy delicacy. You watch as a vendor carefully handles a batch of bledded medlars, their skins wrinkled and darkened, like ancient scrolls offering them to curious shoppers. You pluck one, gently squeezing the softened fruit, and take a cautious bite. There's a rich, honeyed flavor underneath the initial tang, a taste both comforting and strangely mysterious. Medieval farmers treasured medlars for their late-season harvest arriving, when other fruits had long passed their prime, making them a vital source of sweetness through the chilly months. The fruit's ability to be stored and enjoyed after bledding meant it played a practical role in an era when fresh fruit was a rare luxury during winter's grip. You imagine a hearthside scene where a family gathers sharing medlar pulp spread on coarse bread, their cheeks flushed from the fire's warmth and the fruit's subtle sweetness. You overhear a conversation nearby about medlars being nicknamed open arse fruit due to their unusual shape and split bottoms, a cheeky medieval humor that surely would have raised eyebrows in polite company. It's a reminder that humor, even the crude kind, was alive and well, providing relief from the hard realities of medieval life. You smile thinking about those medieval jesters and their irreverent jokes, so alike in spirit to today's comedians poking fun at the powerful. The market is alive with activity, and you notice that medlars were often associated with folk medicine and superstition. Some believed the fruit had protective properties against evil spirits or illnesses, leading to their inclusion in apothecaries alongside herbs and potions. The fruit's astringent qualities made it useful in treatments, but whether these beliefs were more than folklore remains a subject of debate among historians. Nearby, a group of women dressed in indigo and saffron tunics barter over fresh figs and dates, their voices blending into the rhythmic hum of commerce and community. You catch sight of a child holding a medlar fruit, eyes wide with wonder, as an elder explains the bledding process, a tradition passed down through generations. This interweaving of practical knowledge and oral storytelling is the lifeblood of medieval culture, preserving both food and folklore. As you move through the market, you spot a basket brimming with medlars beside honeycombs. Nuts and small cheeses, a reminder that medieval diets were more varied than you might assume. These forgotten fruits and their enduring presence in everyday life challenge the idea that medieval food was dull or monotonous. Instead, they reveal a world rich with flavor, ritual, and ingenuity. You pause to reflect on the scholarly debates surrounding medlars. Were they merely a survival food? Or did they carry deeper symbolic meanings in medieval art and literature? Some manuscripts depict medlar trees alongside scenes of fertility and renewal, while others hint at their association with mortality and decay, a duality reflecting the complexity of life and death in the medieval imagination. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the square, you tuck a bledded medlar carefully into your satchel, a sweet, mysterious relic of the medieval table. The market's rhythm slows the vendors packing away their wares, and you feel the day winding down, the layers of history settling softly around you. The medlar story, like so many forgotten fruits, is a testament to the resilience and resourcefulness of medieval farmers, people who, despite the hardships and uncertainties, found ways to savor sweetness and meaning in every season. With that thought, you step away from the market bustle, your mind still tasting the fruit's tangy richness and your heart warmed by the continuity of tradition. The evening air cools as you wander toward the orchard, nestled just beyond the village outskirts where the last light of day glimmers on the gnarled branches of the white mulberry trees. These trees, with their rough bark and delicate leaves, harbor one of the medieval period's lesser-known treasures. The white mulberry fruit, a cluster of tiny, fragile berries that seem almost too delicate for the rugged world around them. You reach out and pluck a handful, their pale sweetness tingling on your tongue like a soft echo of sunlight. White mulberries were cultivated not only for their fruit, but for the leaves that fed the silkworms in the prized medieval silk industry. a fact that has historians still arguing over the extent of silk's production in northern Europe during this time. Was the silk trade as widespread as records suggest or more limited, with much of it imported from distant lands? This orchard feels like a quiet intersection of agriculture, commerce, and industry, a living relic of a complex medieval economy. As you stroll beneath the trees, you spot a group of women, busy weaving baskets from willow twigs, handy tools for gathering fruit, and carrying goods to market. Their russet and teal dresses ripple softly in the breeze, and you notice how these crafts complement the seasonal rhythm of the orchard. The mulberry harvest marking a critical moment in the village's calendar. The baskets woven tight and strong symbolize not just practicality but community interdependence, the very fabric that held these medieval villages together. Your mind drifts to the surprising nutritional value of white mulberries, rich in vitamins and antioxidants, making them a valuable resource when fresh produce was scarce. It's a reminder that medieval diets often caricatured as meager contained pockets of surprising complexity and health benefits thanks to these forgotten fruits. You imagine a weary traveler pausing under these trees, finding brief respite in the mulberries, gentle sweetness, a small comfort amid long journeys and uncertain roads. Nearby children chase one another through the orchard, their laughter ringing out in the soft dusk light. One carries a cluster of mulberries, occasionally popping a berry into their mouth, and grimacing at the slight tartness before smiling again. Children's honest reactions adding a layer of authenticity to this scene. Their playfulness echoes the timeless joy of discovery, a reminder that some pleasures transcend centuries. You also recall the stories medieval herbalists told about mulberries, used to treat sore throats and digestive troubles. Though historians still argue about how effective these remedies truly were, or if they served more as cultural rituals tied to belief than actual medicine. This blend of science, superstition, and tradition characterizes so much of medieval life, a dance between knowledge and faith. The sun finally dips below the horizon, casting the orchard into a silvery twilight. Fireflies begin their dance among the leaves, tiny living stars lighting the way as you make your way back to the village. The white mulberry tree stands as a quiet sentinel of this forgotten world, its branches heavy with stories and sweet fruit, bridging the gap between past and present. You tuck a small cluster of mulberries into your pocket, savoring their cool touch and faint sweetness, a delicate souvenir of an ancient harvest. Tonight, as you lay your head down, the taste of white mulberry lingers on your tongue, a gentle reminder of nature's quiet bounty and the enduring legacy of forgotten fruits. As night deepens, you find yourself wandering near the edge of the village, where an ancient wild plum tree stands, its twisted limbs silhouetted against the starry sky. This tree, gnarled with age, is a rare survivor of a fruit once common in medieval orchards, but now nearly lost to time, the damson plum. Its small, deep purple fruits hang like miniature jewels, promising a burst of tartness that was prized for preserving and cooking in the Middle Ages. You reach up and carefully pick one, its cool skin, giving way to a tangy, almost smoky sweetness that instantly wakes your senses. Damsons were cherished not only for their flavor, but also for their versatility. Medieval cooks transformed them into jams, tarts, and even medicinal syrups. You imagine the bustling kitchens where these fruits simmered over open hearths, filling the air with their rich aroma. Yet historians still argue whether damsons were as widespread as texts suggest, or if they remained a specialty fruit cultivated primarily in monastic gardens and aristocratic estates. This small tree, solitary and enduring, hints at a quieter, more humble history. Nearby, a pair of elderly villagers sit on a wooden bench, quietly shelling peas and swapping stories by the flickering glow of an oil lamp. Their russet and indigo tunics are patched from years of wear, but their eyes sparkle with mischief as they recall local legends tied to the damson plum tales of spirits protecting the trees and ensuring bountiful harvests. Such folklore woven tightly with agricultural life reminds you how deeply intertwined belief and survival were in this era. You pause to watch a small gathering of children fashioning tiny dolls from scraps of cloth and dried fruit skins, some even stringing together damson pits to create necklaces. Their innocent creativity contrasts with the hard realities of medieval life. Yet these small acts of playfulness underscore the human need for joy and imagination, even in times of scarcity. It's a sweet reminder that laughter and art have always been vital to the human spirit. You recall a quirky fact about damsons: the pits were sometimes ground and mixed into ointments as a remedy for skin ailments. A practice that seems bizarre today but was common then. Medieval apothecaries blended knowledge from ancient texts with local tradition, often blurring the lines between medicine and magic. Historians still debate whether these treatments had real efficacy or served more as symbolic acts to soothe patients. As you turn to leave, the night's quiet is broken by the soft hoot of an owl and the gentle rustling of leaves in the cool breeze. The damson tree stands stoic and silent, a guardian of ancient tastes and tales. Its fruit a small but potent connection to a world long past yet never quite forgotten. You pocket a single damson, savoring its faint perfume as a token of this quiet moment, a reminder that some treasures, no matter how small, deserve rediscovery. You rise early, the soft pre-dawn glow casting a pale saffron light across the thatched roofs of the village, and set out toward the communal orchard, a sacred grove where forgotten fruits quietly persist amidst the centuries. Here stands the medlar tree, its gnarled branches heavy with rough brown fruit resembling small withered apples, an oddity that once flourished in medieval European gardens, but has since slipped from common use. The medlar is a fruit that demands patience, for it must be bletted, softened by frost or storage until it becomes sweet and pulpy, a process akin to nature's slow alchemy. As you pick a medlar and gently press it, the skin wrinkles like aged parchment, and you catch the faint aroma of warm spices ascent. Medieval cooks prized when preparing it in pies and preserves. You recall reading that this fruit was often called the poor man's apple, a humble but vital source of sustenance when more desirable fruits were scarce. Its flavor, tart and slightly nutty, was said to be an acquired taste, loved by those who grew up with it. Historians still debate whether its decline was due to changing palates or the rise of more easily cultivated fruits like apples and pears. The orchard is alive with morning activity. A few women in russet and teal linen dresses gather buckets of water from a nearby well, while a young boy chases a chicken beneath the gnarled olive trees. Nearby, a craftsman sharpens a wooden tool with a whetstone, the rhythmic scraping mingling with the chirping of sparrows and the soft clatter of pottery shards. These everyday sounds, so ordinary, echo through time, connecting you to countless generations who tended these trees and harvested their gifts. You notice a curious detail: a cluster of small scarlet rowan berries growing at the orchard's edge. Their vibrant hue is stark contrast to the muted browns and greens around them. Though not as commonly eaten, rowan berries held a place in folklore as protectors against evil spirits, much like the scarab amulets you remember from earlier days. Their bitter fruit was sometimes used in medieval preserves or fermented into a tart drink. It's a small reminder of how deeply entwined belief and food were, each fruit carrying layers of meaning beyond mere nourishment. Moving deeper into the orchard, you come upon a worn wooden bench, where an elderly woman sits, her hands busy weaving dried grasses into small baskets. Her indigo headscarf and saffron tunic are faded from the sun yet her fingers move with assured grace. She shares a quiet smile as she offers you a slice of medlar jelly on a simple wooden plate, its translucent amber glow catching the light like liquid gold. The flavor is both strange and comforting, a melding of earth and sweetness that seems to carry the very essence of the soil and sky. You remember reading an odd but true medieval fact. Medlar fruits were sometimes used in love potions and aphrodisiacs mixed with honey and herbs to spark desire. Whether this was medical advice or mere superstition remains unclear, but it highlights the symbolic potency fruits held beyond their physical sustenance. Scholars continue to discuss whether such beliefs were widespread or confined to small secretive circles within medieval society. Nearby, a small group of children play a game of knucklebones, their laughter ringing out across the orchard, a timeless soundtrack of youth. One child wears a necklace strung with dried medlar seeds, a simple charm against illness and bad luck. You wonder about the lives these children will lead and how many of these forgotten fruits they will ever taste or know. As the sun climbs higher, the heat of the day settles over the land, and you take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the mingled scents of ripe fruit, fresh earth, and blooming wildflowers. This orchard, quiet and unassuming, stands as a testament to the resilience of forgotten flavors and the enduring connection between people and the land. The medlar in all its humble glory invites you to slow down, to savor the unexpected, and to remember that sometimes the richest stories lie hidden in the simplest things. You tuck a small medlar fruit into your pocket as you leave a tangible piece of history to carry with you, a reminder that the past is never truly lost, only waiting patiently for rediscovery. The day wanes into evening as you wander toward the last forgotten fruit on your journey. The serviceberry, or as some call it, the Juneberry, a small tree often overlooked in medieval orchards, yet one that bore fruit ripe with subtle sweetness and a hint of almond. Its delicate white blossoms had danced in the spring breeze weeks ago, and now clusters of tiny purple berries hang like amethyst beads beckoning you to taste. The air is warm, but cooling, touched by the soft glow of the sinking sun that brushes the horizon with russet and indigo. You find a quiet spot beneath the tree's slender branches, its rough bark cradling the secrets of centuries. Picking a handful of berries, you notice their smooth, waxy skin, the deep purple contrasting sharply with the pale parchment sky above. You remember that service berries were prized not only for their flavor, but also for their versatility. Eaten fresh-dried for winter stores or cooked into sweet preserves and pies that brought comfort during harsh times. Unlike some other forgotten fruits, they required little fuss and were a staple for many medieval farmers, a reliable source of vitamins and calories. Historians still argue whether the service berry's decline in popularity was due to changing agricultural practices or the arrival of more commercially favored fruits, but you suspect it's a mix of both. Modern palates often favor the flashy and familiar, leaving humble fruits like these to quietly slip into obscurity. Yet you savor the notion that such fruits carried the resilience and simplicity of medieval life itself, a life intertwined with the rhythms of nature, demanding patience and appreciation. Nearby, a shepherd tends to his flock, his russet cloak and teal tunic blending with the autumnal hues of the landscape. His wool-clad feet crunch softly on the dry grass as he moves, and you catch the scent of wood smoke drifting from distant hearths, mingling with the earthy aroma of fallen leaves and damp soil. The world feels suspended between seasons, a delicate balance of endings and beginnings that mirror the cycles celebrated in old stories and sacred rites. As you sit beneath the serviceberry tree, you notice a small carved wooden box beside you, left by a local craftsman inside pressed leaves and dried petals of serviceberry blooms alongside tiny sketches of medieval folk tending their orchards. This subtle tribute hints at how deeply these fruits were woven into daily life art and even spirituality. The artist's delicate hand captures moments of quiet devotion, farmers offering thanks for the harvest children, chasing after rolling balls of woven reeds, and mothers weaving baskets to carry their precious finds. You nibble on a berry, its flavor bright and fresh with a soft, nutty undertone that reminds you of almonds and wild honey. It's a taste that seems to hold the essence of the sun-dappled fields, and the enduring human spirit as familiar and comforting as a whispered lullaby. The simplicity of it makes you think of medieval feasts where such small luxuries were cherished amid the larger spectacle of roasted meats and spiced wines. This moment brings you full circle. From the medlar's slow, sweet alchemy to the rowan berry's protective charm, the service berry's quiet sweetness seems to embody the blend of practicality and magic that flavored medieval farming life. You think of the countless hands that nurtured these fruits. Farmers, women, children, each connected by the shared rhythm of planting, tending, and harvesting. Their lives may have been tough the days long and unpredictable, yet their intimate knowledge of these forgotten fruits reveals a profound connection to the land, one that modern life often overlooks. You tuck a small handful of service berries into your satchel, a treasure for the road, and rise to leave. As dusk deepens, the village lanterns begin to flicker on casting warm pools of light that dance on the cobblestones. The sounds of evening gather the distant call of a nightingale, the low murmur of voices around hearths, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. You feel a quiet gratitude swell within you, a sense that these forgotten fruits carry more than flavor. They carry stories, histories, and a gentle reminder that even the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary meaning. As you walk back toward your humble home, you glance once more at the scarab amulet resting against your chest, its tiny form gleaming faintly in the lantern light. It's a talisman not just against misfortune, but a symbol of continuity linking you to the countless lives who lived and loved among these forgotten fruits. You realize that the journey you've taken tonight through orchards, markets, and ancient tales is part of a much larger tapestry, one woven from patience, resilience, and the quiet magic of everyday life. Before you fully sink into your pillow, a quick like and subscribe would mean the world if you're into sleepy stories like this. Don't forget to post your location and local time. I love hearing where these stories find you. Wherever you are, I hope tonight brings you rest, comfort, and maybe a curious dream or two. You settle beneath the soft covers, the scent of parchment and earth still lingering in your senses, and let the warmth of these stories lull you towards sleep. The forgotten fruits, the quiet lives, and the steady pulse of the land will keep watch as your eyelids grow heavy, carrying you gently into the night's embrace.